You carry a firearm and discharge your weapon in self-defense, you could face hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees and expenses. So carry the protection of CCW Safe, Self-Defense Legal Services membership. Upfront payment of all criminal and civil defense costs with no out-of-pocket for members. Unlimited defense budgets, unmatched legal expertise. Carry the same level of support police officers have. Carry CCW Safe, the highest caliber.
And we are back. I'm Chris Evans, the CEO of Survival Dispatch, joined by my good friend Jeff MD, our in-house CIA operative, aka 007, author extraordinaire, soon to be silver screen extraordinaire, shooting the next season, I should say, of Surviving Man next week back home in Dallas, Fort Worth. But it's great to be amongst fame and royalty like you, Jeff. Appreciate you being here.
Right. Yeah, I'm flying out on Saturday, and then I'm such royalty. I'm helping Don set up the obstacle courses and rope courses and stuff on Sunday.
Been there, did that.
Slave labor at that point.
Yeah, I talked to Don earlier. Super guy.
Yeah.
All right, we got a ton of news today. Today was just like a really busy day. So if you downloaded the sit rep, all of the stuff at the beginning for I think it was the top 8 news items, we're going to skip that. And we're just going to jump right into some breaking news. First piece of breaking news that we have is this stabbing that happened late this afternoon in Washington, D.C. And I did not have time to, dig up all of the details. I don't know if you caught this or not, Jeff, but
No,
it didn't happen too long ago. This was posted about 2 hours ago. Somebody stabbed 7 people in D.C., but I chose this particular video. It's only 25 seconds long to show, because some citizens did the right thing and got a hold of this guy, and you'll hear it in the video here. They beat the shit out of him. So we don't have a whole lot of details, but I can share this.
And the dude, the stabber, came up to her car, she just told me. And she wasn't bullshitting me. I could tell because she was terrified. Okay. She locked the door. So then down the road this way, is according to her, is that I said, well, I heard they got him. She goes, yeah, a bunch of guys down here beat the shit out of him down here. That's what she said. But she was sitting right here in the car. And the dude.
So anyway, I don't have a whole lot of details. If anybody wants to share details in the live chat, like links or anything like that, we'll be happy to put them up as we get through the broadcast here. I want to put something else up just briefly, because we had a bunch of swatting attacks, for lack of a better term, on conservative creators, people well known in the conservative community. And here we go again. The FBI is ignoring swatting victims and their investigation claims. 1 minute, 10 seconds. I'm going to play it because Owen was one of the people. Owen's also one of the people who was caught up in the whole J6 thing as well from InfoWars, if you're not familiar with them. 1 minute, 10 seconds.
What's your reaction to not hearing from the FBI weeks later?
I don't know what's going on at the FBI. Like I said earlier, if they want to come after me for a speech crime and throw me in prison, then they've got all kinds of resources to do that. No problem at all. We can make that happen. Plenty of FBI people on my case for that. But when it's an attempted murder of me, FBI, I get crickets. So it's really unfortunate. And I think the factor for me personally, it sounds like maybe for Larry as well, I know with a lot of other of these victims, is we are impatient. I accept that I'm probably on the extreme level of impatience right now. I understand that's where I'm at. I'm probably at the very far end of just complete impatience. And so to ask me for patience for Pam Bondi or the FBI or any of it, it's just not there. I just don't have it. I've been tormented for 10 years politically. I have no patience.
Well, I keep seeing a lot of, tough talking tweets, and the amount of time that it takes to prepare a tweet. One can pick up the phone and give people like me or Owen or others a phone call and tell us what's going on. I mean, this is attempted murder by proxy.
That's exactly it. Jeff, I'd love to hear your thoughts on these swatting episodes before we get into the main topic.
Yeah, I mean, it really is attempted murder, and there has been at least one documented murder where it was gamers, and one gamer swatted a rival gamer, one of these online gamers, and cops went and he ended up getting killed. And if that isn't murder, it's murder by proxy.
Exactly. Yeah, it's crazy stuff for sure. It's funny when you said that, it tweaked me. I saw a news article earlier today, and it was something that happened, I want to say last month, that I wasn't aware of, but it was a guy who was being followed by a cop. He'd done something like a traffic violation. And the guy gets out of his car and he immediately puts his hand behind his back like he's reaching for a pistol. And the cop is giving him orders. Show me your hands, show me your hands. And anybody who's been trained at all in any of this stuff knows that you got to watch two things: the other person's hands in their pockets. You know, what are they reaching for and where are their hands? That'll be the tell that gives away if they're fixing to do something bad. And the guy literally pulls the gun out and points it at the cop, but doesn't pull the trigger until the cop shoots at him. And he shot one shot back again. And now he's stumbling because he got shot in the gut. And he kind of gathers himself and takes a few more shots at the cop, and the cop kills him. And there were all kinds of comments from people say at the beginning of this thread saying, you know, what an idiot. Why would you ever draw on a cop like that? My first instinct, Jeff, was that it was suicide by cop.
Yeah.
And I read another article on it, and that's exactly what it was. The guy had written a suicide note. What a horrible thing to do to a law enforcement officer, to force them to kill you because you want to commit suicide.
Yeah, it's people who want to kill themselves, but they lack, well, as Clint Eastwood said in the Iger sanction, I look at you as someone with an incurable disease who lacks the courage to kill himself. But that's kind of what it is. I want to die. I want to commit suicide, but I don't have the balls to pull the trigger on myself.
So you just tweaked me on something else, by the way. So earlier today when I was doing my training, I caught a tweet, and I should have paid more attention to it, but somewhere in the Midwest, upper Midwest, I want to say, either just passed a law or is fixing to pass a law that if you're a convicted pedophile and you get the death sentence, you have no choice. It will be by firing squad, like they just did to that guy in the Carolinas, but he did it by choice. So
that's too easy. It needs to be by wood chipper.
It needs to be. I mean, we're going off on a tangent here, which is okay. My opinion for those types of crimes, you know, let's say where somebody has raped and murdered somebody, they should be put out to pasture the same way that they treated their victims.
Not to sound like a nerdy Trekkie, but do it the Klingon death penalty, death by slow torture.
If that's what they do to their victims, absolutely. All right. So before we get into tariffs, I want to mention to our audience, if you sign up to be an insider at patreon.com/survival dispatch or on our brand new Substack, survivaldispatch.news, you'll get our daily sit rep. So that's all the links, all the stuff you see during our episodes, an invite to our super active private Signal chat. I got a text message from Brad Wozni a couple hours ago. He's like, I left the chat for the afternoon. I came back. There's 500 unread messages. So, yeah. And as you know, I can't keep up with it, but God bless the people who do keep up with it.
It fills up my iPhone on my phone. The memory on my phone gets filled up, and I have to delete the thread periodically because it's like 80% of my used memory. I could download movies, and the Signal chat would take up more storage.
So the private Signal chat that we have, if you sign up to be an insider, you send us your phone number, we give you an invite to Signal, and the volume again, there's an amazing amount of intel and information sharing there. You'll also get, this is brand new, you'll get an invite to SDN Aftermath, which is 11 a.m. Eastern every Saturday, starting this Saturday. This is episode 1. It's essentially a private webinar with me for an hour, and we're going to cover all the topics that you want to see covered. You can go to Patreon right now and vote on our poll, but it could be everything from, you know, building the perfect home defense gun for you and your criteria. We're not all the same. Could be putting together your get home bags, whatever the case may be, but it's going to be all content that's private content for insiders only. There'll be Q&A. If somebody has something really compelling to say, instead of just being in the webinar, I can actually bring you into the studio and you can share information with other insiders. It's brand new. Only insiders get it. Patreon.com/survival dispatch, or just go to survivaldispatch.news News. All right. So with that out of the way, our main story is tariffs, tariffs, and tariffs. And Jeff and I had a conversation before we went live here. And I said to him, I just don't understand how people are having so much difficulty understanding this. And I'm just going to throw a few high level points out and have Jeff speak to it. Then we've got a ton of content on this topic for you. One of three things is going to happen. And you have to take into consideration, we are in a trade deficit, trade imbalance with the rest of the world. That means that we buy way more stuff from other people than they buy from us. And part of the reason they don't buy from us is because all of these countries tariff the shit out of our products. Canada, for example, 270% on dairy products. And then if it goes over a certain number, it goes to 300%. And we've been taken advantage of by all of these other countries. And we've got to balance things back out again. So number one, the tariffs are a means to an end. And we've discussed this before, and we'll show you some examples tonight. When I say one of three things will happen, number one, you end up like somebody like Doug Ford, the Premier of Ontario, Canada, who's been tough, all this tough talk for the past month, today is basically begging for Donald Trump to get rid of the tariffs, and he'll drop all of the tariffs coming from the Canadian side. And they've had tariffs on us forever and a day. So one scenario by raising the specter of tariffs is that we end up with no tariffs, they end up with no tariffs. Everybody's on an equal playing field, number one. Number two, you have companies who just say, you know what, we're going to have to repatriate our manufacturing back to America, especially automobile manufacturing in Mexico, which there's such a huge delta in labor. It's sent a ton of our jobs there. And the third option is for somebody who doesn't want to do either of the other options, we're going to make money off of their tariffs. And we're probably going to make enough money off of their tariffs that income tax goes away. So, Jeff, I hate to ask you to repeat it, but if you could repeat the points you raised before we went live. You made some really good points. I almost cut you off and said, "Whoa, time out, save it for when we go live." But take it over.
Yeah, there's a number of points on people say tariffs are bad for the economy, they'll hurt us, all this stuff. Well, if tariffs are bad for the economy of the country levying the tariffs, why does everybody in the world have tariffs against us? China has 37% tariffs against us. You don't see their economy hurting from it. And part of it is we buy more stuff than we sell. And part of that, the reason why is because no one buys our stuff because they slap tariffs on it. So if we went to China and said, you want to sell here, drop your tariffs. And then American products can be sold in China at a reasonable price. And then, the Chinese people can buy them. But tariffs are a tool like anything else. They are a tool. They're a means to an end. If you want someone, like Europe puts a tariff on every American car. You cannot sell a Chevy pickup truck in Germany without paying at least a 10% tariff. And I think in Germany, it's even higher. Yet you can sell a BMW, or I think the tariff we have on their cars is like 2.4% or 2.6%. So you can buy a Mercedes and pay just a little bit more. But if they want to buy a Buick or a Jeep or anything else, they got to pay through the nose. Well, you got to call bullshit on that and just say, we're going to mirror your tariffs. And actually, Tom Clancy, of all people, wrote about this in his book, The Sum of All Fears, where, it's about another war against Japan, but it starts off with reciprocal tariffs. It says, we're going to tariff you like you tariff us. And they passed a law where it said, trading with any country in the world, we were going to levy tariffs that equaled their tariffs. And it basically threatened to collapse the Japanese economy at the time this book was written in the 80s. But why not? Why are we letting people put tariffs on our products and doing nothing about it? Would you let somebody punch you in the face and then go, okay, you're right, I'm sorry, please hit me again? No, you'd probably punch him back.
Well, we've got all sorts of news articles teed up of people around the world belly aching. Germany saying we're disrupting the global economy and stuff.
Yep.
They've been taking advantage of us. But a couple things, the most recent numbers that I've seen say that we have a $500 billion a year, so $500 billion a year deficit with just China alone. So not only did we give them our intellectual property, plus they stole our intellectual property, plus we sent skilled Americans to go over there to teach them how to build products in factories. But like you said, they tariff the crap out of us and we don't do it to them. And that's got to end. It's beneficial to these mega corporations in foreign countries. It's killed American manufacturing and really good blue collar jobs, that have gone away. The next thing is, if we look at the three biggest economies in the world, you've got Germany will probably be around 4.5 trillion this year, which is number 3 in the world. China is projected to hit 19 trillion, but they are in deep, deep economic trouble, as we've covered many times. Their unemployment rate's through the roof. 60% of their plants have been idled. I think they'll be lucky to get to 17 trillion this year. We will surpass $31 trillion this year. And like you said before I went live, 10 years ago, it was like, oh, China's going to pass us any day now. They're going to have a bigger economy than us. Not even freaking close. And then I also said to Jeff, the only way that I can kind of relate to these numbers, and I still can't relate to something like 31 trillion realistically, is that if you had $1 million and you converted it to 1 million seconds, that would be 11 days of time. If you had $1 billion and you converted it to 1 billion seconds, you would have 31.67 years. I can still relate to that. But if you had 1 trillion seconds and you converted it, or dollars, you converted it to seconds, it's 31,667 years. So when we say our economy is an order of magnitude greater than everybody else, that is not an exaggeration at all. And instead of charging people essentially to have access to the biggest economy, most sophisticated economy in the world, we've been getting the short end of the stick for at least 50 years.
Well, it's actually been longer. It's been since the end of World War II. And at the end, when World War II ended, ours was pretty much the last economy standing. France had been occupied by the Germans. They were gone. Germany had been bombed into oblivion, as well as Italy and most of Europe, actually. Britain, their industry was just worn out. They had just worn it to the nub during the war and didn't have the capital to invest in it and had basically bankrupted themselves fighting the war. Japan was leveled, same thing, in China too. So we were the only nation, the only economy of any size that was left not only unscathed, but we were bigger than we'd ever been because we had built factories and steel mills and ships and everything else. And so we kind of looked at it as, okay, we got to do the world a favor. We've got to help them out. We'll set favorable terms. We'll do the Marshall Plan. We'll pump billions of dollars into Europe, even our enemies, to help them rebuild and get the world's economy back on its feet. And then we did NATO to basically say, okay, Russia had built up their economy, but you got to think about it. European Russia had been overrun by the Germans and pretty much wiped out. Right. So they had to rebuild all that too, but they'd moved their industrial production back into the Euro. So they still had weapon production capability. They could still make tanks and airplanes, but they were threatening Europe. And so we said, we will give you a security umbrella in NATO, and we'll give you a economic umbrella under the Marshall Plan, so you can rebuild and we'll have this thriving Europe. You'll be friends of the United States, blah, blah, blah. Well, the Europeans got used to that. It's like welfare. You give people welfare long enough, it's not something they're appreciating anymore. It's something they think they deserve, and that it's, they're entitled to. And that was Europe. Europe was, well, the Americans are always there. They're always going to be there. We gave them favorable trading terms. That's why you had 8 billion, Volkswagen Beetles over here in the 60s. And so they got used to that. But at the same time, we weren't flooding them with imports, because we said, okay, we'll let you develop your own domestic auto production capability, Volkswagen or BMW. And so they would put tariffs on our cars while we had no tariffs on theirs. And we kind of acknowledged that and said, okay, it's to help them bootstrap to get back on their feet. Well, that was 80 freaking years ago. At some point, we're going to say, okay, you're back on your damn feet.
So to that point, and I've brought this up before, but it's funny, so I have to bring it up again. There was a meme a few weeks ago that said if the government came out with a program today to wipe your ass, and 5 years from now discontinue that program, people would be like, "Oh my God, how am I going to wipe my ass?"
Exactly. You know? That's your. How are we going to defend ourselves if the Americans aren't there to defend us? I don't know. How about defend yourself?
Yeah, no kidding. So there's been so much news today on tariffs. I have, I think, 4 or 5 posts or articles that I want to show before we get into the sit rep that got sent out. So it may seem a little bit disjointed, but we'll pull the whole thing together. And the first one I've got up here is Comrade Bernie in 2008, essentially saying that if we don't have tariffs, it's going to destroy American manufacturing. And that was, 17 years ago. And he was right. He's not right about very much when it comes to economics, but even Comrade Bernie agrees. So it's 1 minute, 21 seconds. I probably won't play the whole video. I don't think it's necessary.
Further, what they have said is that we need to not worry about manufacturing in America, because what we should establish is a policy of unfettered free trade. We don't need tariffs. What we need is to allow corporate America the freedom to throw American workers out on the street, people who are making 15, 20, 25 bucks an hour, healthcare, pensions, throw them out on the street, because somehow, Madam President, we are going to create wealth in America and good paying jobs in America as we shut down plants. We move to China, corporations there pay workers 20, 30 cents an hour, and we bring the product back into this country.
And that's precisely what's happened. And it's I guess it's ironic, not ironic, that Comrade Bernie would be saying this 17 years ago. But today, if you were to listen to him, he has a completely different story to tell, how Donald Trump is going to crash the economy with tariffs. But one of the reasons there's so much stuff to cover tonight is because it seemed like every 10, 15 minutes today, there's another story of somebody saying, "Oh, we're shutting down our production in Mexico. We're moving everything back to America." I mean, the speed of change has just been phenomenal. I want to back up quickly just to something you said about World War II. I would argue that we won World War II for the world. One, because of our culture and wherewithal. And we've discussed this many times. Other armies that we fought against, their SOP, for lack of a better term, was to kill a leader on the opposite side. So it could be a squad leader, could be way bigger than that, could be, a unit, a battalion, whatever. Usually that meant the other side would fold. And our men didn't do that. The Greatest Generation didn't do that. If you killed one of our leaders, somebody else immediately stepped in and became the leader of that group and kept going. And the Germans, after World War II ended, frequently said they hated fighting us because of that. It didn't matter how many leaders they took out. We just kept coming at them. So I would say that's the number one reason that we won World War II. And I would say the number two reason, I've mentioned it before, was our industrial capacity was flicked like a dang switch. Typewriter factories started making guns. Textile factories started making parachutes. The big three automobile stopped making consumer vehicles, made military vehicles only. We crushed the rest of the world because we had the biggest, baddest, best manufacturing, period. Full stop.
And we donated that to the rest of the world.
That's right.
The P-51 Mustang was built and designed in response to a British Royal Air Force request. Germany, or the Russians, went after the Germans driving in Studebaker trucks, because we sent them Studebaker deuce and a halves, by the gross. I mean, just shiploads of them. They were, the Bell Supermarine Air Cobra, the P-39, was a great tank buster. We didn't fly it hardly at all. It was all the Russians. And so we supplied the world with everything. food, guns, butter, you name it. Ford went from making, I think they were making Model A's at the time, to building B-24s in the same factory. And they were cranking them out like sausages.
So speaking of which, I don't know how much you kept up with the Signal chat today.
No, I haven't.
But if you didn't, if you go check it, I'm trying to get my camera to focus on that. That's my deuce and a half.
Oh,
Just because there's a video walk around of my deuce and a half. I sold it. I don't have it anymore, but that's Chris Evan for you.
Yeah. But
all right.
yeah, it was our men, it was our fighting, and it was our industrial capacity.
Yeah, 100%. All right. So I like Carl Higbee a lot. Newsmax is, for the most part, pretty decent. So he's speaking on Trump's Liberation Day. There are no rational basis for any opposition to charging other countries the exact same thing they are charging us. And here's the thing. We're not charging the other countries exactly what they're charging us. If you look at the charts that were released yesterday, 50% best. So in other words, if somebody's charging us a 50% tariff, we're charging them a 25% tariff to start. We're not charging them the same, and they're still crying. But this video is 3 minutes, 15 seconds. I won't play the whole thing, but I will play enough of it that you get the gist.
Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, doing to others as others doing to you. Like some of the oldest biblical principles. I don't know why so many libs are against this. Yes, I do. But there are no rational basis for any opposition to charging other countries the exact same thing they are charging us. That's what this is. It's nothing more, nothing less. You want to tariff us? We're going to tariff you. It's not a new concept. Donald Trump has been saying this for 40 years.
And yet we let Japan come in and dump everything right into our markets and everything. It's not free trade. If you ever go to Japan right now and try to sell something, forget about it, Oprah. Just forget about it. It's almost impossible. They don't have laws against it. They just make it impossible. They come over here, they sell their cars, their VCRs, they knock the hell out of our companies. And hey, I have tremendous respect for the Japanese people. I mean, you can respect somebody that's beating the hell out of you, but they are beating the hell out of this country. Kuwait, they live like kings. The poorest person in Kuwait, they live like kings. And yet they're not paying. We make it possible for them to sell their oil. Why aren't they paying us 25% of what they're making? It's a joke.
It is a joke. And he got his wish today. For the first time in my lifetime, the playing fields are level. And if you're a country that doesn't want to drop their tariff, that's okay too. You can produce your product here in America and avoid the tariffs, like Audi and Porsche, who are planning to start producing their cars here in America now. You see how this works? American jobs being created because we want to make things more fair. And because we said we were going to make them more fair, places that weren't fair are now being fair by leveling the playing field. Israel taking their tariffs down on us. We give them $12 billion a year in foreign aid. I don't know why they're tariffing us on anything. But India, which has a significant outsource of American manufacturing, mostly so liberals can just say they don't have a carbon footprint here in America. But India, in response to these reciprocal tariffs, also dropped a significant amount of their tariffs. Now, look, you still have Doug Ford and people in Canada who think that they're going to go toe-to-toe with us.
No, they don't. We have the video coming up on that.
It's like Canada's imposing tariffs on flamethrowers, manatee meat, fake beards, and live monkeys. I didn't even know Canada made flamethrowers. They hate all weapons. Personally, my flamethrower was made here in America. I'm serious. And honestly, how many monkeys could we possibly import from Canada? I think this is all like kabuki theater, but 80% of Canada's exports rely on America. 2% of America's exports rely on Canada. This is like some faux outrage campaign of Max Trump derangement syndrome that's going to tank the Canadian economy if they keep this up.
It's actually worse than that. Mexico and Canada combined together account for 2.7% of our annual GDP. Canada's GDP is 40% dependent upon America. I mean, that we have all, like Trump keeps saying, we have all the cards. So another piece to this is that Trump has said he's going to bring the lowest corporate tax rates back again, 15%, which is maybe 0.5% higher than Ireland, which has the lowest in the world. And what's that resulted in? Okay, so we have the prospect of tariffs. And what was one of the options to avoid tariffs? Bring your manufacturing to America. And Trump has secured $5 trillion in foreign investment in America, which means all of that will avoid the tariffs. And here's the other thing. That's almost what our annual revenue intake is for our federal government. It's not much over $5 trillion. It's a big, big number. And again, some of this might be a little bit disjointed because these ones are prior to the sit rep links, which we're going to get to in a second. But I love this from Salty Goat here. Anyone who is worried about tariffs, here's your answer. Made in the USA. Not rocket science. Next one up is Lutnick here. And I will play this. It's a 13-second video. To all the buffoons screaming that tariffs weren't imposed against Russia, the answer is right in front of your faces. Because we have sanctions against Russia, North Korea, Belarus, and Cuba. We don't trade with them. It's against the law. But the liberals clutching their pearls. Oh, Donald Trump loves Putin. He didn't put any tariffs on them. No, he banned their products from our market, for crying out loud. Jeff and I were discussing how you can't even buy Russian-made 7.62 by 39 anymore, which used to be a great economical buy. And it would still kill you if you got hit with it.
So, Secretary, why exactly wasn't Russia on that list yesterday?
Because we have sanctions against Russia, North Korea, Belarus, and Cuba. And so we're not supposed to be trading with them.
Thanks for clearing that up.
Seriously.
Well, it's like saying, hey, how come we're not having Elvis Presley on the show? Well, because he's dead.
Right. I mean, they're grasping at thin straws. I saw that homo, what's his name, Harry Sissons today. Trump is going to crash the economy with these tariffs. I mean, just, Mockingbird, right? Parroting the same old crap. But here you go. Breaking news today, this afternoon. General Motors to significantly increase vehicle production in the United States following President Trump's tariffs. Would that take 24 hours?
Yeah.
I mean,
Ford is giving all Americans employee pricing.
That's right. Yeah. Good for them too, by the way. And here's a company, Stellantis idles plants in Mexico and Canada due to tariffs. Stellantis said it is pausing production at 2 assembly plants in Canada and Mexico as the company attempts to navigate President Donald Trump's new round of 25% automotive tariffs. About 900 U.S. represented employees at supporting plants will be temporarily laid off, in addition to 4,500 hourly workers at the Canadian plant. Ford Motors and General Motors, also responded to the tariffs as well. So,
my only problem with this is that I'm expecting a new engine for my Jeep, and I hope it's made in an American factory and not held up.
Yeah, imagine that. Wouldn't that be, par for the course? All right. So moving on from there, I've got from AJ here an article on the 3 goals that Trump wants to achieve. And I think global trade war is pretty hyperbolic, but it is what it is. So I'm just going to roll down to it right here. And I'm going to go through these 3 quickly, and then I'd like you to comment on them, Jeff. The first is to strengthen the U.S. supply chain sovereignty so as to eliminate the leverage that other countries have over it. This might not be pursued solely for the sake of it, perhaps as contingency planning, thus hinting at concerns about a major war. The 2 most likely adversaries are China and Iran, and a hot conflict with either would throw the global economy into turmoil. Trump might therefore want to prioritize reshoring in order for the U.S. to preemptively minimize the consequences. Number 2, the second goal builds upon the first and relates to the U.S. prompting every country to renegotiate their bilateral ties, during which time the U.S. could offer to reduce tariffs in exchange for certain concessions. What did we say? It's a bargaining tool, right? Yep. These could take the form of distancing themselves from China to a degree and gradually replacing it with the U.S. with their top trade partner. Other incentives could also be dangled, such as technology sharing and military deals. The purpose would be to weaken China by chipping away at its foreign trade. And number 3, the last goal is to shape the emerging world order to which end the U.S. had to speed up the end of the present one by shaking the global economy to its core, like Trump just did. Obtaining supply chain sovereignty and replacing China as the top trade partner for as many countries as possible would give the U.S. leverage over a sizable portion of the world. While it's premature to speculate the ways in which the U.S. could exploit this, will almost certainly be in the context of systemic rivalry with China. All right, Jeff, turn that one over to you.
Well, yeah, the supply chain is a big deal. My son-in-law works for Toyota, and we were talking about my issues with my Jeep and the engine. And he goes, "Yeah, they're going to give you a crate motor because with the supply chain the way it is, they wanted to rebuild it. The parts will come from so many different companies that they will never get them all there on time in the right place. Where you get it from a factory, they just drop it in." And you build a motor, and if you have one little part that comes from frickin' Indonesia and it doesn't make it in on the container ship in time, that whole repair is held up because you got this one piece that has to come in. We need to build the vehicles here, and we need to build the damn parts here. There's no point in having a BMW factory here if you got to wait for an engine to come, from Germany. Now, if you can get a whole, a ship full of engines, and then you have them in inventory so you can build it, that's one thing. But when it comes to something that's defense related, that needs to be 100% U.S. sourced, because you cannot have an F-15 sitting on a tarmac waiting for a part that a chip that's made in China. And that's just nonsense. Everything needs to be U.S. sourced. And part of that goes down to is rare earth minerals. China controls the rare earth mineral market. The technology used to refine and separate rare earth minerals, it's kind of a centrifuge, but instead of using gas like you do with uranium or so, they would use an oil. And that's how they separate. Well, the rare earth separation plant, the only one in the world at the time, was in Indiana. Chinese bought that company, bought the technology, moved it all to China, shut down the Indiana plant. That's why we don't produce rare earth minerals here.
I appreciate
and we
that.
have plenty here. If there's a huge mine, Molycorp owns a big rare earth minerals mine in California, but the state of California, with all their environmental regulations, won't let them produce it. There's also a big reserve in West Texas. There's a mountain basically of rare earth minerals, but the environmental BS they have to go through to develop it is insane. So hopefully that with Lee Zeldin in charge of the EPA, they'll roll all that crap back and we can produce our own rare earth minerals.
Yeah, I have a vague recollection that there's also a fairly large deposit in Missouri somewhere.
Yeah, it's rare earth minerals aren't rare. They're just kind of difficult to separate from each other because chemically they're very, very similar. So there's not a really easy process to separate, tellurium from gallium and from all these others. But it can be done. It just requires a little more work.
So I would add to your comments on supply chain sovereignty, one that really concerns me, and I've been tracking this for a few years now, is that China has 50% of the entire, world's production of ships. And we now have 0.5%. And if we get into a war and our ships start getting sunk, we don't have the capacity to rebuild them like we did before. And that's just not acceptable. So I think AJ's argument on that, and yours as well, is 100% on point. Moving on to the next one here from the Gateway Pundit, and this is from yesterday. Winning. Trump's reciprocal tariffs trigger global response. Multiple nations / import duties on U.S. goods. Oh, surprise, surprise. Who would have ever thunk it, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty much everything that we have going forward from here is just one anecdotal example after another, after another, after another of the key three things that we keep pointing out. Only three things will happen. Either the other country will drop their tariffs and we'll drop our tariffs, or the manufacturing will be repatriated to America, or those countries who don't want to play ball to have access to the largest economy in the world will collect tariffs on it. It's
the other option, there's one more option, is that we will find another supplier for whatever we're getting from that country. If there's something we're getting from, I don't know, China, and they say, we're not going to play ball, we're not going to lower our tariffs, we're not going to do this, fine. And then somebody, Vietnam, Indonesia, Japan, will say, hey, we'll make that for you, and we'll sell it to you with no tariffs.
Well, that's interesting actually, because the tab off after this one that I have up actually speaks to that. So again, from Eric Smith here, that was quick. Exclusive: GM to increase U.S. truck production following Trump's tariffs. That was today. That was this afternoon. But the next one here really speaks to your point. This will change significantly. Vietnam has been among Asia's fastest growing economy. Its gross domestic product grew 7.1% last year, surpassing government projections and analysis estimates. Vietnam's trade surplus with the U.S. was more than $123 billion last year. And what is it? It's all these different types of shoe wear.
Yeah, it's apparel.
We'll buy shoes from somewhere else, or we'll make the shoes.
It's not high tech. You know, to make a sneaker is not like making a microchip.
Yeah.
You know, it's why the textile industry moved to Pakistan. A lot of it did because in India, because it's low cost wages, but it's 100-year-old technology. Anybody can do it.
Right. So next one up here, this article cracks me up. So attack on the global trade order, cries German chancellor, warning Trump's tariffs fundamentally wrong. I mean, I would love to have a face-to-face with these clowns and say, what gives you the right to continue to abuse America and take advantage of us? That you charge us all kinds of tariffs, but we shouldn't charge you any? You guys could go to hell.
That's when you say, well, if our tariffs are fundamentally wrong, what are your tariffs? Are they fundamentally wrong? Then let's both get rid of them and we won't have this problem.
There we go. You know, so, and here you go. Great Britain, we hit them with tariffs. That Keir Starmer, WEF clown, another WEF clown. These guys are so far out of their league dealing with Trump, it's not even funny.
Well, it probably won't hurt Britain because they don't make anything anymore. They don't make shit.
Good point. And I think we have something somewhere in tonight's tabs that actually speaks to that our manufacturing has been decimated. Theirs has been decimated even worse. Yeah. So
obliterated.
Here's a decent little video from Salty Goat. I keep hearing the left screaming about how a trade war with Mexico and Canada will destroy the U.S. Yeah, watch this. We can survive without them. They can't say the same. How long until both countries fold like a cheap rug? I give them 3 weeks, more like 3 days. Some of the numbers in this video, I will say, are low. They are not the most current numbers, but they're directionally correct. It's 43 seconds.
So why is Trump not backing down? Just listen to this. In 2023, Canada sent 76% of all of their exports to the United States. That accounts
76% of their exports went to the United States.
For roughly 19% of their entire GDP. In 2024, Mexico sent 78% of all of their exports to the United States. That makes up 37% of their entire GDP. But for America, their exports to both countries combined only make up roughly 2.7% of their entire GDP. So simply put, even if they do retaliate, getting into a tariff war with the United States would hit Canada and Mexico much harder. Trump knows this. And
it affects everybody like Canada and the United States because we don't have trade surpluses with anybody. It's all the other way around. It's the entire world taking advantage of America. Like you said, since World War II, I agree with that. You're right. It's longer than 50 years.
It's 80 years. Yeah.
You're right. You're absolutely right on that. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And so here, this guy is an economist, super smart guy, by the way. And he basically lays it out, you know, that the surplus country is always losing a trade war escalation. And we are the deficit country. Everybody else is a surplus country. Nobody has any cards in this but us, quite literally. 1 minute, 4 seconds. It's a good explanation.
And if countries retaliate, which some have said that they would, some have said they wanted to wait and see, what is the White House's response going to be to those countries?
Well, Caitlin, one of the messages that I'd like to get out tonight is everybody sit back, take a deep breath, don't immediately retaliate. Let's see where this goes, because if you retaliate, that's how we get escalation.
And then it becomes a full-fledged trade war in your view?
Not a trade war, depends on the country. But remember that the the history of trade is we are the deficit country. The deficit country has an advantage. They are the surplus countries. The surplus countries traditionally always lose any kind of a trade escalation. So I did, as a student of economic history or a professor of economic history, I advise against it.
So you're essentially saying that they should not retaliate.
I would say that doing anything rash would be unwise.
I mean, that puts a pretty fine point on it, Jeff. You're welcome to add to that if you want to.
Well, yeah, what it boils down to is very simple. They need our markets more than we need their products.
Yeah, that's actually a great, super concise way of explaining it. Yeah. So J.D. Vance just gave the Canadians another cold shower. For the Canadians, leadership threatening retaliatory tariffs, as President Trump often says, they just don't have the cards. No way that Canada can win a trade war. Vance and Trump are right. Canada has nothing. Trade with the United States is 40% of their GDP. 46 seconds.
I got no audio. Do you have audio? I don't.
You want to add anything to that, Joe?
I couldn't hear him. I didn't hear any audio from him at all.
Okay. Geez, I've got the audio just fine. That's bizarre.
Yeah, that's why I was doing that, because I couldn't hear it. I don't know if I did. Yeah, someone else had audio less, no audio.
Yeah, I've got the audio fine here. Let me see.
Or maybe Doherty and I are both losing our hearing.
I don't know. If you got audio there?
No, I can't hear what he's saying at all.
What the heck is going on with that?
I can see it, but I can't hear it.
Let me see if another tab's got audio. Golly. You got audio on that?
Nope.
Did you have?
No.
Oh my God. Have I ever mentioned, Jeff, that we sure could use
a producer?
Oh my
God. Times. Maybe in passing.
What on earth is going on? I can hear the audio just fine here, which makes no sense whatsoever.
It is at such a high pitch that you have dog ears, and you
right
just can't.
And recovering from something like this where there's no freaking audio, which I can hear it fine, is precisely where you need somebody. You need a engineer, producer standing by. Let's try this again. I'm going to share something else. Yeah, I'm going to use the Brave browser instead. And if that's the case, then it's going to slow down getting stuff out. But let me know if you have audio. Shoot, it's the wrong one again. Just a second here. Yeah, by the way, I don't know if I ever told you or not, but we sure could use a producer. This one here. All right, let's try this.
Yeah, go ahead. The tariffs. There's been some.
Did you have audio on that?
Yeah, I heard that.
Okay. All right. So we'll back up and play J.D. Vance again. I'll let that play through. I'll let you speak to it. And the more comments you have, the better, because I've now got to move everything out of Chrome over. Chrome has been nothing but problems recently. The past couple months. That's a Google product, but the past 2 months I've had nothing but problems with Chrome on Mac OS. But anyway, I'm going to play this, and I'll let you take over the conversation afterwards.
Yeah, go ahead. The tariffs. There's been some retaliation, some signals at least in the media that Canada is going to respond. Some of these others are going to respond to the president's tariffs. What's your message for Americans that are going to see costs increase on auto manufacturing, new cars, that kind of thing? Is it Buy America, or what's the message going forward there?
Well, let me say a couple of things. First of all, for the Canadians, and we have many dear friends in Canada, and of course we love the Canadian people, but the Canadian leadership threatening retaliatory tariffs against the United States, as President Trump often says, they just don't have the cards. There is no way that Canada can win a trade war with the United States. What President... Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so that's the end of that clip.
Well, he's right. They don't have the cards. It's not so much that we want to trade war with Canada. We want fair trade with Canada. We have been taking a backseat to them. We have been, we've let them disadvantage us for decades. And at some point, you just go, okay, enough. You're put on your big boy pants, compete fairly, and if your products are good, they'll win out in the market, and if they're not, they won't. But this idea that, okay, take whiskey. Canada makes some really good whiskeys. And if I was Canada, I would be going, you know what? I will put my whiskeys against, Kentucky bourbon any day of the week. Let's go head to head. Let's see what happens. But they don't. They want, okay, well, we don't want bourbon up here because, it'll compete with our whiskey. So we're going to put a tariff on it. Well, if your product's that good, then compete. And if your product's not that good, improve it. And we have there's a lot of cross-border trade in the auto industry because, Detroit and Windsor are basically across a river from each other. And it makes sense that, they're symbiotic, but, and a lot of those are Ford and GM plants. But if Canada had their own automobile industry, indigenous automobile industry of their own Canadian companies, and they wanted to compete with American car, they build a better car. I mean, it's just that simple. We're not talking about commodities like, okay, it's corn or wheat or something where, for the most part, wheat is wheat. But when you want to build a product, just build a good product. The marketplace will take care of you.
It always does, as long as it's not manipulated, by socialist,
fair.
Marxist, communist stuff.
Yeah.
All right, next one up. Europe is about to impose record high tariffs on U.S. exports. Trade war. No. Now watch Trump put America first and smash the EU. 1 minute and 6 seconds.
European Commission drew up an answer to the tariffs on imports of European steel and aluminium to the US, imposed by President Trump. The new tax on a number of American goods will amount up to 250%. The European Commission has introduced an appropriate response to the unfair US tariffs. It includes proportionate taxes on US imports into the EU, according to the Commission's official statement. The list of taxed goods includes products from various industries, including textile and agricultural goods, alcoholic beverages, tobacco, consumer electronics, and steel products. Ursula von der Leyen says, during his first term, President Trump has already tried to disrupt the trade balance between the US and the EU. The measures introduced by the EU back then haven't made him change his aggressive trade policies. This time, we're ready for stronger and swifter actions to stop threats to the European economy from the US. The new tariffs will take effect in mid-April of 2025.
Yeah, so Europe in particular is really belly aching over this stuff. More so than anybody else, as far as what I've been able to gather. And they have treated us more unfairly than anybody, whether it be us subsidizing NATO and looking after all the stuff for them, whether it be us not charging them tariffs on their stuff, like you pointed out, Mercedes, for example. But, we have to pay tariffs if we want to send anything over there. I personally think that the European leaders can just get bent. They've been taking advantage of us for so many years. I have zero respect for European leaders outside of countries like Poland, Hungary, those sort of places. Poland.
Yeah, they're freaking fascists anyway. They don't have the same governing principles that we do of, fairness and free speech and personal freedom and things like that. They want to control what you think, what you say. And if you say something they don't like, they put you in jail for it. So I'm going to screw those guys.
Yeah, 100%. And that's no exaggeration either. It's almost on a daily basis. I see an article of somebody who said something online.
Or prayed.
Yeah, the bobbies show up, the British police. And, well, you caused somebody anxiety by making this post on social media. Therefore, we need to take you and lock you up. And we've mentioned it before. I'll mention it again. 3,000 hardened criminals in Great Britain last year were released early to make room for people who said something on social media that either pointed out things like Pakistani rape gangs that have been going on for 20 years, or hurt somebody's feelings, or misgendered somebody. George Orwell would be very proud.
Well, and even beyond that, it's if you're not down with the program, they'll put you in jail and won't let you run for office. Marine Le Pen they just sentenced her to 2 years in jail and kept her from running for president for 5. Georgescu in Romania won the election, and then the courts declared it, well, it's null and void because of some nebulous Russian disinformation threat, and they kicked him off. And then this woman comes up and says, okay, I'll run in his place. Yeah, no, you won't. We'll put you in jail too. And Germany has been trying to kick AfD off the ballot for ever since it's existed. And even though they are the most popular political party in Germany, nobody will form a coalition with them because they're evil nationalists. Why are we defending these people? They are not a democracy. They don't believe in freedom. They don't believe in free speech. They don't believe in any of the things we do. Why in the hell are we doing anything with them?
Yeah,
let them die.
Absolutely, 100%.
By let them kill themselves because they are doing it. They're committing suicide.
So there's the error message that Chrome's giving me, just so I can show it to you. But if I quit Chrome, we'll go off air, or because we're using StreamYard through Chrome. So it's not an option. That's why I'm messing around, going back and forth between Brave and Chrome. Actually, I'd like to try something else quickly here. Let me know if you have audio for this short ad for performance triggers. It's 27 seconds. I'll play this. This will be a sound test, because if that doesn't work, that also means that our closing video won't have audio. Apologies for the difficulties here, but again, this is why we need a producer. All right, here we go.
Hear it.
You could get okay. Well, that's good news. That means that the end of the podcast is going to go well, at least. So thankful for that much. So since I did play that, I'm just going to go ahead and mention this. Performancetriggers.com. There's a link down below. If you use a discount code SD10, you get 10% off anything on the site. Plus, you get free shipping as well. There's something I'd really, really like to show you guys, but I can't, because the last time I showed a video of this product, we got a strike for it. But this brilliant little device here is called a Super Safety, and they're $169. Use our code, get 10% off of that. So $145 includes the shipping. Or if you buy 2 of them, you pay $139 each minus 10%. So I think you can get 2 of these, including shipping, with $250. This little trigger, and it replaces the safety. You actually don't even have to use, you don't have to buy the trigger. You can just buy the safety itself for $99, but it's easier just to buy the kit complete. Let's just say that the rate of fire from this trigger is off the chain. It's a 3-position safety. And if you were ever in a situation where you had to lay down some covering fire, this is the tool that you want. You can be straight up regular semi-automatic, or you can be semi-automatic on steroids. If you guys are familiar with forced reset triggers, this is kind of the next generation product that not only is just as fast, if not faster, is ultra durable. But I can't show you the video. But if you sign up as an insider and you remind me and you want to see what the performance is like, I will show it on SDN Aftermath on Saturday at 11 a.m., which is essentially a private webinar for insiders that doesn't go to YouTube and all these other communist platforms, CommiTube, as we call it. All right, moving on to the next one. All right, Senator John Kennedy speaks of the longstanding friendship between the U.S. and Canada and says, I don't want to be at war with Canada. I don't want to have a trade war with Canada. There's a way to stop this trade war. It's just to remove the tariffs on both sides. Make no mistakes, Trump is getting a lot of pressure from within to reverse his course. He's damaging the relationship between our two countries as well as his own economy. No, he's not. Like, that's just a bullshit comment on Marty up north's part here. He's watching CBC, the communist state-run media there. Blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to read the rest because this Marty up north is a clown. But anyway, what I will say is here's another example of the benefits that we already mentioned, and it's already come into play. Doug Ford was all over TV yesterday and today, the premier of Ontario, who's like the governor, saying, let's just come back to the table. Let's drop all the tariffs. We'll drop all our tariffs if you drop your tariffs. Like, folded just like that.
Well, Doug Ford can't make that decision. He's basically a governor trying to make a decision for a country. That needs to be Carney and the Parliament needs to do that. But the fact that he's begging for it probably means they're not going to be far behind him.
Yeah. Well, Carney released a statement and started backtracking on his comments. A couple of days ago, he said, our relationship as, being tight with the Americans is over, and went on this whole tirade. Just an idiot. He's another WEF clown, by the way. Yeah. But what Doug Ford does control is all of their electricity is generated by the government, Ontario Hydro, and he controls 100% of it. So as far as any tariffs or anything that affects that electricity that he sends stateside, he has control over that. But you're right, he has small pieces of the pie. The federal government would have to step up and do the right thing. All right, next one up. We have a $1.2 trillion trade deficit and counting. We've had 90,000 factories closed in the last couple decades. Since 1997, Americans have been put out of 5 million manufacturing jobs. These are not just statistics. These are real lives that have been impacted. 1 minute and 4 seconds.
To anyone on Wall Street this morning, I would say trust in President Trump. This is a president who is doubling down on his proven economic formula from his first term. We saw wages increase. We saw inflation come down. We had a Trump energy boom. We had the largest tax cuts in history. And that's exactly what the president intends to do following his historic announcement yesterday for reciprocal tariffs. It's the golden age rule for the golden age of America. And the United States of America is no longer going to be cheated by foreign nations around the world. And as the president declared yesterday, this is indeed a national emergency. We have a $1.2 trillion trade deficit and counting. We've had 90,000 factories closed in the last couple of decades. Since 1997, Americans have been put out of 5 million manufacturing jobs. These are not just statistics. These are real American lives that have been impacted. And it's about time we have a president who actually does something about it. This is going to restore more wealth, more jobs, more economic prosperity to our great country.
So I'll start the comments on this, Jeff, by saying not everybody wants to go to university to become a professional. So a doctor, an attorney, those sort of things, an engineer. There is nothing wrong with people going to work in the construction industry and other what are typically called blue collar industries. But you know what? Sydney's oldest son and his wife just bought a home here in Central Florida in Deltona, and he's 32 and his wife's 30. They're the only ones out of all of their peers who have bought a home, and they did it entirely on their own. And you know why? He's a licensed journeyman electrician, and we don't have enough tradesmen, especially highly trained ones like him. So this whole concept of, I never bought it in the first place, right? When we started talking, first we had free trade, the FTA agreement with Canada. Then we had NAFTA when we rolled Mexico in. And I listened to everybody pontificate at the time on how this was going to do great things for our economy because we were going to, push the low-level manufacturing jobs out of our country and we could focus on the high-level stuff. And it never made any sense whatsoever. And again, there's nothing wrong with somebody who wants to build with their hands, for crying out loud. It's a very satisfactory, high level of satisfaction, that type of work. And on top of which, they did this without asking any of us. Hey, do y'all want us to ship all your jobs overseas? What do you think of that? Huh? Anyway, I don't know if you want to add to that or not, but
well, it is real people, and they seem to forget that. And I would rather be a tradesman working with my hands, making money at 19 or 20 years old than going to college for 4 years, build up $100,000 in debt to get a degree in gender women's study or sociology or something like that, and then get into the job market and go, hey, guess what? Nobody really wants to hire me. I'm going to start working. I'm going to make less money than the guy with gender women's studies degree. And people always say, well, if you have a college degree, you're going to make X amount of money more over time than the person without it. Well, it depends on the college degree. Yeah, if you're an engineer, a doctor, something like that, yeah, sure, you will. But if you've got a degree in, English or history or something like that, those don't pay. And so you're going to end up racking up a lot of debt. You're going to lose 4 or 5 years of prime production years for nothing. And what people need to look at before they go to college is, what am I going to major in? What is the expected return on that investment? Because going to college is a business decision. If you're going to dump $100,000 for a job that makes you less money than an electrician, you're better off being the damn electrician.
Absolutely, 100%. And at the end of the day, we need people to do those jobs. And look, I'm not trying to be ignorant, but we've had JJ Carroll on many times, 23-year special agent CBP, who said the vast majority of illegals during his career that they intercepted at the border were not only not fluent in English, they were not fluent in their own language. They can't read and write.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can tell you from years and years of experience in Texas, I've mentioned this before, late 80s, early 90s, you go to Cashway, the contractor desk would open at 7 a.m. and there'd be Mexicans lined up from one, end of the lumber yard to the other end, and they'd work for $5 a day. And now that number's a little bit more, but 10 years ago, they would work for $20 for a day. And God bless them for their work ethic. They have tremendous work ethic, but very few of them actually have skills, are actually skilled tradesmen. Some of them are, there's always outliers. So we need skilled, trained, very intelligent electricians, plumbers, carpenters, and everything in between. One thing that hits me, Jeff, is just because I've done a fair bit of consulting in it, is commercial roofing systems, which are extremely complex, especially if they meet Miami-Dade NOAs or the Florida building code, which is like the next level down. And every time that a contractor that I worked with in that vertical sent a crew that was not supervised by an American who had a lot of experience and know-how, it was always a disaster. The roofing systems always leaked. We would go look at them. Brand new roof, by the way, Jeff. I could show you pictures that looks like a quilt because they've welded patches of TPO all over the place because they wrecked the dang roof before there was even an occupancy permit for the dang hotels. So again, I'm not trying to be ignorant. I'm telling you, I speak the truth on this. We need well-educated tradesmen, and they're not coming across our southern border. Those are some good, decent people who have tremendous work ethic, but they're not skilled. All right, next one up. It's amazing how few people are dealing with Trump's tariffs in good faith. The purpose is to incentivize negotiations that puts us back on track to balance trade with all of our partners. They are a temporary measure to create new incentives. Idiots shrieking about this believe the current situation is sustainable. It's suicide. Note that none of them offer a single idea or solution to our massive trade deficit. So I think we pretty much beat this to death as far as the deficit's concerned, Jeff. If you want to add something, by all means do so. Otherwise,
I think that graph pretty much shows it all.
Yeah, a lot of red, right? Okay, next one up. So there was a comment. Here we go. this is actually a comment on the previous point. Tariffs will impoverish middle and lower income people. You can't move factories overnight. The WEF plan of owning nothing presented as a chest thumping patriotic measure. And this response is brilliant. You aren't listening and do not even understand how tariffs play out in actuality. It's a temp strategy to reset trade so we have balanced trade. Do you not understand that we will collapse economically just from running a massive manufacturing goods trade deficit? Number two, importers look for other suppliers and trade arrangements. The world is a big place, and there are many alternative suppliers who will rise up to meet the need. Just you stated that. To importers can import from non-tariff nations. Substitutes, alternatives, all economic concepts you seem to be unfamiliar with. Tell us, when did you become a trade expert? Yesterday? That's about it.
Yeah.
These pundits, right? They hear something on CNN and then they just repeat it over and over and over again. But
it's market forces. If there's demand for a product and the price is too high, someone else will come in and say, I'll make the same thing for less.
Yeah, 100%. So obviously you can see this is where our thumbnail came from today, and the wallpaper we have behind us here on StreamYard. I chose this for a very specific reason. I've never seen a loudmouth peckerhead wrong as much as this guy. He's a straight up stooge of the establishment. They essentially say, look, here's what we want you to go out and promote and, drill it into the sheeple's brains. This guy has never been right on anything. Whatever this guy says, Jim Cramer, do the exact opposite. Like, do not take any investment advice from him. He's constantly saying, oh, well, you shouldn't buy this stock. You should buy that stock. And sure enough, in no time, somebody's posting, yeah, I did the exact opposite, Jim Cramer. And my portfolio was up by 100%.
There's actually like an index. It's the anti-Cramer index. And it says they basically went the opposite of everything he said. And it's up above the Dow. It's above average.
Again, it would be disingenuous to suggest that he's stupid. He's not stupid. He is relatively articulate, but he's reading off of a script. He's reading off of the orders he's been given to program the sheeple with. The TV told me, so therefore it must be right. That crowd. Yeah. Anyway, that's why we chose it for the thumbnail tonight. All right, next one up. Here you go. Here's your buddy. Prime Minister Carney of Canada, already bending a knee to President Trump. I mean, the last speech that he gave before this was so far out of line, insulting us. But go to the World Economic Forum's website, wef.org, and check out the young global leaders. He's new boss, same as the old boss. He's just like Justin Trudeau. He's a graduate of the World Economic Forum's acting school.
You said previously that the relationship that Canada had with the United States is now over. Is the U.S. still our ally?
The U.S. Absolutely. Look, the U.S. is absolutely our ally. It's our ally in security and defense partnerships. It's our most important security ally. For example, it's still, even with these tariffs, the largest trading partner.
You said
it's, again, new boss, same as the old boss. Yeah. Here you go. So this was posted yesterday afternoon, almost instantly. Mexico backs down. No retaliatory tariffs against the U.S. President Sheinbaum chooses negotiation over trade war, prioritizing economic stability. Oh, imagine that. And she's another one who is puffing her chest out. Well, we have, power over the United States, but no, you don't. Like, neither one of these countries have power over us whatsoever. Peter Navarro says this trade war is not a negotiation. We're in a national emergency associated with chronic and massive trade deficits that are brought about by higher tariffs that take our jobs and factories, meaning elsewhere. It's on the long side. It's almost 4 minutes long. I'm conscious of the time here. We're already about 16 minutes over where we'd like to be at the end of chapter 1. So I'm going to leave that one for another day and bring this one up here. So let me get this straight. It's just fine for other countries to levy tariffs on U.S. made goods, but it's a trade war when Trump levies reciprocal tariffs on them. You people are crazy. So, routers right here. Trump stokes trade war as world reels from tariff shock. again, I mean, we've pretty much beat this to death. And here you go. Our elected leaders have sold us out to the globalists for decades. They're the ones who started a trade war. We are just evening the playing field now. Thank you, President Trump. We didn't start a trade war. We responded to one. Brilliant comment. I mean, it's a meme, but that is absolutely right on point. Parting thoughts on tariffs, Jeff?
Well, I'll just stress that they're a tool. If other countries get their heads out of their ass, the tariffs won't be on for very long. As long as they drop theirs, we'll drop ours.
It's a means to an end at the end of the day. I don't understand how people, it's not that complex. I don't understand how people can't see past it, other than they get all of their programming from the legacy media, and they're so invested in that they can't get past it. Now, with that being said, 21% of Americans right now think the Democrats are doing a good job, historic lows. So maybe there's some hope. Maybe it's like 21% of our society is, buys into the globalist crap. And let's hope the other 79% doesn't. I'd like to think that's the case at least. So here's the deal, because we ran long on chapter 1. I want to respect Jeff's time and him having dinner with his wife. So we're going to cancel chapter 2 tonight. There's some good stuff in there that I'll push into tomorrow's episode, but we're going to go straight to chapter 3. And before we jump into chapter 3, I want to just quickly mention EMP Shield again. And I'm mentioning it at this particular point in time because we're coming up quite quickly on hurricane season here in the Southeast, and we've got all kinds of crazy tornadoes. I want to say 10 people died today in Arkansas. Maintaining your power and not having damaged all your electronics and stuff in your home is pretty critical. We'll probably end up doing one of the SDN aftermaths on a Saturday morning on backup power strategies, low budget to high budget, everything in between. But here's the deal with EMP Shield. Number one, we're the only people who have ever shown in a public video this being tested with hundreds of thousands of volts. We hit it with 400,000 volts. We put a margin of error in there at 360,000 volts. Pardon me. If you go to survivaldispatch.com, you'll see it at the top. It was 400,000 volts. It's 30,000 volts per centimeter, and we jumped a gap that proves that it was 400,000. Anyway, what I'm getting at is that if you're not concerned of an EMP strike and you're not concerned of a coronal mass ejection, plasma coming off of the sun, you should be worried about getting hit by lightning. And if you put an EMP Shield device on your home, chances are pretty good you will not have any lightning damage to any of your electronics. The product that they have has infinite resistance when there's no spike and infinite attraction when there is a spike. We put 400,000 volts into a test bed here, and 8 feet in the other direction had an EMP Shield attached to the panel on our mock-up electrical stuff. And we hit it 400,000 volts over and over and over, 3 dozen times. Nothing was damaged. That EMP Shield 8 feet away drew the current to it. We disconnected it, smoked everything on the test bed. My point is, you get struck by lightning, you have an EMP Shield protecting your home, you'll probably have no damage to your electronics. But if you do have damage, you can put a claim in with EMP Shield. They will give you $25,000, which should more than cover any deductibles if you do have to make an insurance claim. So anyway, I just want to mention EMP Shield again. Discount code Survival Dispatch, all one word, and that gets you $50 off of each unit. We get a small commission, which helps us defray some of our expenses. My wife was just saying, do you have any idea how much we pay for monthly recurring software subscriptions that we have? It's thousands and thousands of dollars, believe it or not, because we need a broad range of tools. But anyway, you can use the link down below, or you can just go to empshield.com and use discount code Survival Dispatch, get your $50 off each one. All right. So chapter 3, let me pull up another web browser here, because Lord knows I don't have enough of them open already. All right. All right, here we go. The good news is I managed to get the entire chapter queued up, so we don't have to go through this again. All right. Here we go. No, hold on a second. Again, I got too many windows here to put up with these Chrome bugs again. Golly, it's wearing me out. Here we go. Frick. Okay, should be able to see X again here now. All right, the Democrat propaganda. Is that still not coming up?
Yeah, Democrat propaganda machine.
You got it?
Yeah.
Okay, it's not indicating it here on my end for some reason.
Oh.
Probably because I'm flip-flopping between web browsers. But the Democrat propaganda machine at CNN should have their license to broadcast revoked. Whoa, on CNN, Trump is orange. On Fox, he isn't. This is the scam. 16 seconds.
Oh, yeah, I heard about this.
Look at this. There's Fox. No orange filter. There's CNN trying to make them look bad.
Yeah, like that's a shock.
Anything outside of Scott Jennings on CNN is just straight up. Yeah, it's straight up bullshit, really. All right. This seems like a good day for liberal meltdown, so I'll just leave this right here. Revealed how Trump could be president until 2037 due to a simple loophole in the Constitution. Can you imagine the meltdowns from that? It would be epic. Be pretty funny.
He would be like 100 years old. But.
By the way, I agree with him saying that he would love to go toe to toe with Obama. I would like to see that too. You know.
Oh.
All right, and here you go. This is the person who invented Trans Day of Visibility. And Salty Goat says he's going to take Danny DeVito's part in the new Batman remake.
Oh God.
Yeah, I know. Apologies. It's harsh.
Oh.
All right. This cracks me up. So this ATF agent took a knee because he was scared to shoot the Glock standing, apparently. It's the most dangerous thing he's ever shot. Oh, my goodness.
Oh, this is the Glock trigger or something?
No, it's got a Glock switch in it. But
Glock switch, yeah.
39 seconds.
Still big deal.
Semi-automatic, as fast as I can.
Is designed to do. But with a simple modification,
going hot.
This is what the Glock can do.
Most dangerous thing I've ever fired.
The most dangerous thing is the mullet.
Control it and react to it.
That small metal piece is called an auto sear. It's better known as a Glock switch. The Lego-sized device can turn an ordinary pistol into a fully automatic machine gun capable of firing 20 rounds in a second.
And that will get you put in jail very quickly.
The way he's handling it, though, it's like, have you never shot an Uzi? That's like shooting an Uzi.
Yeah. It's crazy. All right. This one's pretty funny. There are two types of moms. This cracks me up. 15 seconds.
I'm gonna need you to get off the log, okay? Before you hurt yourself. Come on, guys. Bring it back. Bring it back in, guys. Get the fuck off the log right now, or my hand is going across your cheek.
Yeah, another bag.
Oh my God. That's too freaking funny. All right. Breaking. People in Northern Ireland are putting up warning posters. Anyone facilitating the settlement of Muslims or illegals in our area will be held responsible. We are watching. And I don't know why this person put Brits have had enough.
Well, it's Northern Ireland is Britain.
Is
part
it?
of the UK?
Okay.
Yeah, Northern Ireland is part of the UK.
I knew it was part of the UK. I didn't think they refer to themselves as British, but
all part of Great Britain, Greater Britain.
All right. So then there's the sign right there telling them to take notice. Good for them. And here we go. Now that Secretary of Defense has released new fitness standards, what's stopping you from training like this? This guy's a machine, by the way. 15 seconds.
That's why we win wars.
That guy, yeah, he's got some crazy videos. He's a specimen. If all of our soldiers were built like him, we'd be in a really good spot. I wonder if Pam Bondi, Cash Patel, Dan Bongino will look into Liddy Boasberg's bank trail. This is crazy. So this is this Judge Boasberg's daughter. Then the money is just insane. These people should not be in any position of power whatsoever. 58 seconds.
So the judge's wife, Liddy Madsen, for some reason, Liddy didn't take the judge's name, but she sure takes taxpayer money. 50 million, in fact. And 5 million has been sent here. Yes, here. It's very interesting if you check it out. The public support, that's you, pays their 15 million a year. And they can go traveling on that. And then when you travel, you get an honorarium speech. She learned that trick from the judge. They took paycheck loans that they didn't deserve, almost 1.3 million. On top of that, the employee retention credit, 801,000. And look at that, they inadvertently mislabeled it. What is she doing sending 5 million over here? Where's that money really going to? And PPP and ERC loans that they weren't entitled to? The Tesla protesters were paid.
Yeah, so sorry, that was Boasberg's wife, but his daughter is hooked into some really big money.
Yeah, she's defending. She works for a law firm that defends the illegal aliens. And if you deport them, they can't get paid because they have no illegal aliens to defend.
Yeah, they were getting funding through USAID as well.
Yeah,
so
no conflict of interest there.
No. Maybe it's my fear of spiders, but I see no humor in this prank. Do you? 1 minute and 3 seconds.
Bullet.
I'm with the kids on this one. Spider-Man.
Down.
Slide it. Here's just some cruel parents.
Oh, sorry.
Other way. Fast.
Cut it.
That was a pretty funny prank. These people make 0 cents top, laughing off vandalism, burning up Teslas. Down below, somebody lands some rubber down on top of an alphabet flag. Hate crime.
Yeah.
Racist, homophobes. All right. So this is another example of why women live longer than men. He says that he's reporting in that the DeWalt has more power than the Ryobi. Check this sander out.
Don't let me down.
This is why men die earlier. So our life expectancy is less.
This is true. This happened yesterday, I think, in France. An Afghan migrant reportedly fatally sliced open the neck of a man outside of McDonald's in Bordeaux, France. They don't show it here, but whether it be the self-inflicted genocide, the crazy economic policies, whatever, but Europe is lost. They're in deep trouble. Deep trouble. All right, this is pretty funny. This is the president of metal. Sorry, this cracks me up. JD Vance got like the perfect face to put on stuff.
For what is a man? What has he got? If not himself, then he has not.
That Sinatra song, by the way, right there is going to get this video smoked within about 20 minutes of us ending the episode. The commies at YouTube will say that we had a copyright infringement. You played 15 seconds, not even 14 seconds.
Yeah,
Sinatra, song. How dare you? Man, yeah, good question. This lady had a meltdown and stripped down in the terminal, airport terminal. What has happened to society 24 seconds? Nothing surprises me anymore.
Yeah, I'm still looking forward to flying.
Here we go. Trump eyes third term, mentions Obama. President Donald Trump has expressed a desire to run for a third term in 2028. Knowing how Donald Trump operates, he probably has no intention of running. He's just doing this to get them riled up, right? Mentioning an interest in facing Barack Obama in a presidential race, the U.S. Constitution's 22nd Amendment limits a president to 2 terms, making Trump's third term legally impossible without changes to the law. Discussions and polls indicate a public belief that Trump might attempt to challenge these constitutional norms despite the legal barriers. He plays them like a dang fiddle. All right. Trans teacher films video of himself doing a sexually suggestive dance, in his classroom. These are the people teaching your children. This is brutal. 38 seconds.
Oh, back again. Straight to the point. Now give me my pen. Believe the king, a precious the queen. Mama's the prince, I'm the princess. You can do what you do and try to take my crown. I'm taking this shit when it really counts. I am the one that's talking about. I do it for me and not work out. I am the girl, so what's your tea? The pop, the bitch, your girl, just it. The first step is being a yes.
Mentally ill. Unreal. That'll be another copyright infringement too, by the way. I'm sure of it. All right. Somebody posted this in the Signal chat today. Shame on whoever posted the Signal chat. I don't know who it was. 1 minute and 44. I don't think we can make it through the whole 1 minute and 44, but this is the state of too many youngins these days.
Hey guys, Brittany here. I'm a mess. I'm not doing good at all today. I'm like really angry and splitting so much, and I'm just like, I want to go back to bed, but I have to work because there's some like money I need to make, and I have a horrible headache, and I just can't stop splitting. And if you're familiar with splitting, it's basically like getting angry at people and like not being able to control it and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't know the exact definition of splitting, but I could tell I'm doing it right now. I also just realized I haven't taken my meds in like 2 days, so you know that could be contributing to this also. I'm just like, I literally don't know what to do. Anything I put on like music wise,
Seek help.
Yeah.
Seriously, seek help. Unreal. What is with liberals and these fucking nose rings, by the way? That's a particularly obnoxious one, but
yeah.
Do they think that it's attractive? It's like it's a booger catcher, you know?
Yeah.
There's nothing attractive about it whatsoever.
No, not at all.
Yeah, Lynn says over on the Rumble side, start by pulling that shit out of your nose.
Yeah.
I second the motion.
Never do anything to your body you can't undo.
Yeah. So this one has gone viral today, by the way, like seriously viral. And this mother vandalized a Tesla right in front of her children, time to make her famous on X. Her daughter flips the camera off. They know the camera's there. They still go ahead and do it. This is how weak-minded these people are, right? It's like the machine says, go out there and vandalize every Tesla that you see, and they do it like a bunch of zombies. They are.
Yeah, and all these Teslas are probably, most of them are owned by liberals.
Most of them are owned by liberals, for sure. Elon owns 12% of the company. So most of the investors are liberals. And here's the third one for you. The ones that are really getting trashed, guess what that means? It means the insurance company has to buy another one to replace it. So it results in more sales.
Gets more sales. That's true.
So check this. Check these. Oh my God. I don't know what to call these people.
Psychos.
Of course, there's no audio, but watch this. They know the camera's there. Wow. These are mentally unbalanced people. So
there's another one. This guy should have just gotten the crap beat out of him.
Yeah.
I'd love to see him do this sometime to like an MMA fighter.
Right.
That would be hilarious.
Yeah. So this guy's Cybertruck is, attacked by these clowns while he's standing about 15 feet away from it. And the fuck around, find out. This guy finds out. It's 1:35. I'll probably play the whole video.
My Cybertruck was attacked by an Elon Musk hater in broad daylight.
Hey, who the fuck is that? You're a piece of shit, dude. That's my fucking car. Yeah. What the hell is your friend's problem? You guys are fucking idiots.
So get this. These guys park right behind my truck, attack it, and leave. But that's so dumb because everyone knows the Tesla records everything. And not to mention, I was literally standing 15 feet away from my truck. Who would do this? What a dumbo. So I immediately assessed the damage, called 911, and secretly followed them to the place they were going.
White dude, pink hair. 40?
So it took about 10 minutes for the cops to arrive. They questioned me, so I showed them the videos.
It's got to be an Elon Musk violation or something. It is, yeah.
And they asked, do you know where he went? I said, yes. He and his friends went to the movie theater.
Got 50 out here. The boys went into the movie theater, so we're going to see what happens.
Turns out they were watching Death of a Unicorn, so the cops went in, paused the entire movie, and told the guy, you need to come with us.
Not so funny now, is it, big man?
The police asked if I wanted to press charges, and I said, absolutely. This is going to be a few $1,000s in damages for sure. And plus, Elon Musk haters need to be taught a lesson.
Look at these guys. They're the friends chilling there, waiting. I don't know why.
Most people get away with vandalism, but not this guy. We got him. Thanks, Elon.
Oh, wow. What's up, bro?
He's great.
Yeah. I love it. It's only going to get worse and worse. So check this out. Senate blocks Trump's Canada tariffs in 51-48 vote. The U.S. Senate voted 51-48 to pass a resolution that blocks tariffs on Canada proposed by Donald Trump. The resolution received support from 4 Republican senators, Susan Collins, Mitch McConnell, Rand Paul, Lisa Murkowski, alongside all 47 Democratic senators. The measure now awaits consideration in the House of Representatives with the possibility of a presidential veto. I mean, it's absolutely going to get vetoed.
Oh, hell yeah. If it gets through. Should.
Normally, I think fairly highly of Rand Paul, but
yeah, but it's a resolution. They don't mean shit. It's not law.
It doesn't mean shit. And then we already know that Murkowski, Collins, and McConnell are ginormous pieces of crap. But Rand Paul didn't do himself any favors here.
No, he didn't.
So Retard Finder says this could be the biggest find ever. 3 seconds.
I'm a little trans girl, small and cute. I'm a little trans girl, small and cute.
Looks like
I'm a little trans girl, small and cute.
I had to play it 3 times just in case anybody didn't catch it the first time around. All right, last one here. And this is a pretty interesting way of describing multiculturalism. And we've spoke at length on this particular topic. One culture always wins out. People are attracted to people who have the same values and belief systems that they have. There's 0 instances in recorded history of diametrically opposed cultures cohabitating one space, in harmony. It doesn't work that way. But this, like I said, this is an interesting way of describing it. 1 minute, 10 seconds. This is the last one for chapter 3.
I'm personally pretty big on nationalism, and I'll use an analogy.
This guy nails it. He explains it better than I could have.
Put 5 different cans of paint, one yellow, one red, one green, one blue. You can admire all different colors and you can have a favorite one. You could like pink, for example, and I like red better. But in the end, you can look at all the different colors and appreciate their differences and their variations and whatnot. Now, that's nationalism. That's different cultures, different people loving who they are. They can still appreciate and care for other paints, other countries, other places, but nonetheless, they keep it to an extent separated and as is. It's a unit. Globalism, I liken it to taking all 5 cans of paint and dumping it on the ground. Now, all you beautiful little individual colors are all one shade of brown. And here's the fucked up thing. You can never go back. You can never go back to the individual identities that make it so unique, so beautiful, so different and cherished. It's forever mixed and fucked.
Good way to put it. He's 100%. It's so important we protect our European cultures and people. Multiculturalism, mass immigration has to be stopped. Not only does it have to be stopped, we have to do re-immigration and start sending people that shouldn't be here home.
Second that. So I lied. It's not the last one because John Wheaton just sent this and we got to play this. So this is Nancy Pelosi in 1996 speaking on tariffs and the trade deficit with China. It's almost like all Democrats are hypocrites. 5 minutes, 43 seconds. We'll just play a little bit of it. I haven't seen the video yet, but like I say, John Wheaton just sent it in. So here we go.
How far does China have to go? How much more repression? How big a trade deficit and loss of jobs for the American worker? And how much more dangerous proliferation has to exist before members of this House of Representatives will say, I will not endorse the status quo. As I mentioned, it's about jobs, proliferation, and human rights. And there are those who say we shouldn't link human rights and trade and proliferation and trade. I disagree. But if we just want to take up this issue on the basis of economics alone, indeed, China should not receive most favored nation status for several reasons that I'd like to go into now. I'd like to call the attention of our colleagues to this chart on the status quo that the business community is asking each and every one of us to endorse today. Right now, we have a $34 billion trade deficit with China, the 1995 figure. It will be over $40 billion for 1996. Since the Tiananmen Square massacre, this figure has increased 1,000%, from $3.5 billion then to about $34 billion now. In terms of tariffs, I think it's interesting to note that the average U.S. MFN tariff on Chinese goods coming into the United States is 2%, whereas the average Chinese MFN tariff on U.S. goods going into China is 35%. Is that reciprocal? On exports, China only allows certain industries into China, of U.S. Industries into China, and therefore only 2% of U.S. exports are allowed into China. On the other hand, the U.S. allows China to flood our markets with a third of their exports, and that'll probably go over 40%. And it's limitless because we have not placed any restriction.
Yeah, well, she's right. I never thought I'd say it, but
Yeah,
Nancy Pelosi is right, or was
right. You just have to go back in time.
Yeah.
Before they got on the globalist whatever gravy train.
Stocks.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, I just noticed that when I sent the SITREP out today, we didn't put in the homework section of what things that our viewers can do, but it's actually pretty simple. There's a lot of baloney floating around out there on tariffs that's very short-sighted, not, grasping the concept of it being a tool to achieve other things that we've already mentioned. So homework for tonight is like this video on whatever platform you're on, share this video with your circle, share it on your socials, and help spread the truth on these things, and then continue to do that in your face-to-face conversations as well. When somebody spews the tired talking points of the globalists, the Democrats, the liberals, the Marxists, the commies, whatever you want to call them, respond with the truth. 4 things. Jeff, you're going to kill me here because I probably won't remember your number 4. So you might have to help me out here. But number 1 is that both the other country and us drop our tariffs, and mission accomplished. That puts us on level playing field. Okay. Another option is companies who manufacture in other countries move their manufacturing to the U.S. or back to the U.S., especially car manufacturers. That's a win for us as well. The third one, these countries who don't want to move their manufacturing here and continue to charge us tariffs. We charge them tariffs. We make money off of it. And what was number 4, Jeff?
It may have been we replaced their products with products from other countries that do lower their tariffs.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate that. So that's the homework. Just those few little things would make a big difference. Final reminder, patreon.com/survival dispatch or survival dispatch news, or actually survivaldispatch.news. Although you could go to survivaldispatchnews.com as well. We own that domain too. If you go there and sign up, you get access to every sit rep situation report for each day. You get an invite to SDN Aftermath, which is starting this Saturday, essentially private webinars to discuss things that we can't discuss on CommieTube. We'll cover a bunch of survival stuff on how you accomplish certain things, pick the right things for you, because what might work the best for Jeff may not work the best for me, may not work the best for you. But there's a way to get through that process to find out what works best for you. You get an invite to our Signal chat, insane volume of information over there. There are other benefits that come with it as well, but those are the big ones. So patreon.com/survival dispatch or survivaldispatch.news and get signed up. We'd love to have you in the fold. And we have one last thing for tonight, the conflicted question. Interesting hypothetical situation tonight, by the way, Jeff. So the hypothetical situation is carjacking. So the Rivera family, parents Maria and Carlos, and their teenage daughter Sophia are driving home from a late night church event in a rural area. Before I read this, I got to do a quick audience poll on this, by the way. If you want us to move the conflicted question back to the beginning of our videos, put a 1 in the live chat. If you're happy with us doing the conflicted question at the end of our broadcast, put a number 2. So number 1, you want conflict at the beginning, or number 2, leave it like it is at the end of the broadcast. All right, so here we go. As they stop at a quiet intersection, 2 armed men emerge from the shadows demanding their SUV. Carlos tries to reason with them, but one assailant pistol whips him, leaving him dazed and bleeding. Maria screams as the second man yanks Sophia from the back seat, threatening to take her unless they hand over the keys. In the chaos, Maria remembers the small handgun Carlos keeps in the glove box for emergencies, a choice they debated as devoutly religious family uneasy with violence. What the heck does religion have to do with us? The assailants haven't seen it yet. With seconds to act, Maria must decide, comply and hope for mercy, or grab the gun and risk escalating the situation to protect Sophia. So the question is, in this type of SHTF scenario, where law enforcement is delayed or absent, is it morally justifiable to use lethal force to defend your family from immediate harm, even if their personal values or your personal values, like a commitment to nonviolence or religious principles, conflict with that choice? This is not a conflict, by the way, with religious principles. And somebody even mentioned earlier in one of the videos, eye for an eye, ring a bell. How do you weigh the sanctity of life, theirs and the attackers, or yours and the attackers, against the duty to protect your loved ones? Jeff, I'll let you take the first swing at this.
Well, first of all, your only responsibility at this point is to your family, not to the assailants. You take the gun, you put it as close to the face of the guy who just pistol whipped your husband, because he's the one that has the gun, and shoot him in the face. If the second guy hasn't figured out that he's at the point of diminishing returns, shoot him in the face.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Here's what I would say. Number 1, don't put your gun in your glove box or your center console. Make sure that it is readily accessible to you at all times. Usually when you're in a car or truck, that doesn't mean on your person. You know, there's some really great tools like magnetic mounts for your pistol to mount to the bottom of the dash. They're very handy. There's some that go in your coffee cup holder that hold your pistol perfectly there. I also have, AR pistols at arm's reach in addition to sidearm pistols. So that's number 1. Don't put the gun in the glove box. Number 2, When the first guy says, hand over your keys, you hand over the keys, but you've got Butterfingers, and it just so happens that it drops to the ground. And at that point in time, you have a judgment call to make. Do you put distance between you and them for safety, or do you shoot the guy? And, if it had gone to the point where the guy gets pistol whipped, Jeff is right. So they have your daughter, they have a willingness to use deadly force. I would just put one caution out there on this topic. And Tony Blauer, I'm going to give a good anecdotal example from Tony Blauer. So Tony teaches his students. Tony Blauer is the preeminent world expert on sudden violence. And he tells his students that if you have to disarm somebody who has a gun, one shot is going off. There's always going to be one shot that happens. Okay. I don't want to break any confidentiality here with Tony, but suffice it to say that he left his subdivision. There was a car going the opposite direction into his subdivision, and the people in that car did not belong in their neighborhood. And he got that feeling where the hair stood up on the back of his neck and something didn't feel right. Okay. So he was going to pick something up, maybe clothes at a dry cleaner, kind of rings a bell. So he pulls in and he tries to call his wife, no answer. He tries to call his kids, both of them, no answer. So he calls 911 and does a beeline back for his home. When he gets there, these three guys had essentially been sent to deliver a message to him, and they were gone. His wife and kids were pretty shook up. These three guys put his family in a closet at gunpoint, pointed the guns at their faces. And Tony's son said, "I'm sorry, Dad. I wanted to take the gun away from the guy who had it pointed at Mom, but all I kept hearing was you saying there will be at least one shot that goes off, and it would have shot Mom in the face, and that's why I didn't do it." And nobody knows this stuff better than Tony Blauer. He's lived it for 50 years now. So keep that in mind. If you're going to attempt to disarm somebody, you should have a lot of practice doing it. You should also accept the fact at least one shot is going to go off. So,
well, hopefully it's your shot.
Yeah. Amen to that for sure. So a quick reminder, there's a poll on patreon.com right now. It's open to everybody on topics for SDN Aftermath, 11 a.m. Eastern every Saturday with me in a private webinar type setting. It's just for insiders though to actually attend. Want to hear some other ideas on what you want to see covered during that weekly hour that we get to spend together. There may be times where you ask for information on a topic that is maybe not in my wheelhouse. We've got a lot of people who work on survival dispatch, and I'll endeavor to make sure I bring somebody to the table in addition to me who can address your stuff. If it, like, for example, if you want to learn how to rub two sticks together, I'm not your guy, because I've probably got 50 different ways to light fires. And that's not something I've invested my time in. But anyways, please like our video. We'll be back in 24 hours. I will be back in 24 hours, 7 p.m. Eastern tomorrow night. But please like, share, comment, subscribe. God bless America, and enjoy a brand new closing video tonight. I think it's a minute and 40 long.
This is one of the most important days, in my opinion, American history. It's our Declaration of Economic Independence. My fellow Americans, this is Liberation Day. April 2nd, 2025 will forever be remembered as the day American industry was reborn, the day America's destiny was reclaimed, and the day that we began to make America wealthy again. American steelworkers, auto workers, farmers, and skilled craftsmen watched in anguish as foreign leaders have stolen our jobs, foreign cheaters have ransacked our factories, and foreign scavengers have torn apart our once beautiful American dream. Our country and its taxpayers have been ripped off for more than 50 years, but it is not going to happen anymore. We are finally putting America first. In a few moments, I will sign a historic executive order instituting reciprocal tariffs on countries throughout the world. We will supercharge our domestic industrial base. We will pry open foreign markets and break down foreign trade barriers. More production at home will mean stronger competition and lower prices. From this day on, we're not going to let anyone tell us that American workers and families cannot have the future that they deserve. We're going to produce the cars and ships, chips, airplanes, minerals, and medicines that we need right here in America. We're going to build our future with American hands, with American heart. This will be indeed the golden age of America.